Hey collectors, welcome back to the workshop. So today we are going to discuss an album and an artist that you may not expect someone like me to review or even talk about, but I have been very intrigued recently by Harry Styles and what he's been producing and putting out into the world of music lately. And I think it's worth talking about. So without further ado, this episode is about Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally by Harry Styles. We'll start with the unboxing and then talk about the album itself. Let's do this. Okay, here's our copy of the album. I wanted an edition that was colored, but that I could also just pick up off the shelf. And so the place for that was Target. This is the Pop Blue vinyl edition, which I'm hoping will go well with the aesthetic and simplicity of the album artwork. But let's open this up. It does have a very glossy finish to it. As you can see, my camera and equipment are all reflecting. On the front side, though, the image itself is kind of a matte. It has a different sheen to it, which contrasts with the rest. I don't know if you can catch that really on camera, but so on the back we do have the track list on the spiral here, and then Harry Styles, the album, and then executive produced by Kid Harpoon. I had to look that up. I was like, oh, that seems important enough that they wanted to put it right under the title. Kid Harpoon is a British songwriter who also executive produced Harry's House with Harry Styles. So you've got the same duo here working on this. It is a gatefold, so let's see the inside. Oh, all right. Well, not sure I can post this on YouTube, but here it is. Interesting artwork. Aesthetically, I think it's kind of fun, but also not quite sure how it relates to the themes or even the front of the jacket, but there it is. Okay, let's look at insert number 1. Here's the booklet. Very minimalist. Works well with the front cover. Photography on the left. Track lists on the right. More Harry being Harry. Looks like you have a little bit of a note here to the fans. Oh, what a gift it is to be noticed, but it's nothing to do with me. For those who helped me make this, for those who inspired me to make anything, for those who helped me know when to say no and when to say yes, for all my friends to dance to. Thank you. Nice. All right, so here's the record jacket. Oh, very disco. No additional sleeve. There's a pretty tight fit. And staticky. But here's the blue record. Looks pretty good. Nice pop of color to go with the set. This reflective sleeve is pretty fun. But what I'm going to do now is I'll clean the record and re-sleeve it, and then I will talk to you again after for the review. All right, so Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally is Harry Styles' fourth studio album, coming after 2022's Harry's House, which garnered him many, many awards and generated a world tour that lasted, I think, nearly 2 years. So this album is coming, with lots of expectations. Fans are hoping for great things from this album. And I've had a chance to spend a few days with it now, and my overall thoughts are, I like it. Actually, there's quite a few songs and things about it that I like quite a lot. But what struck me most about this album wasn't necessarily what it was doing right. It was actually what it was choosing not to do. Because to me, this is actually a surprisingly restrained album. And what I mean by that is, throughout this album, there are moments and songs that you can just feel are building up to bigger, greater things, right? Like a bigger hook, or a wilder chorus, or a dramatic instrumental breakdown. But instead, most of the time, the music just sort of holds itself back. And that restraint feels intentional to me in this album. We all really love those wait for it moments in music, right? We have almost these expectations of songs to explode into something more energetic, more theatrical. But instead of doing that throughout this album, Harry chooses for everything to settle into the grooves that it already has going. And that results in an album that actually feels very relaxed and very controlled. In some ways, this album reminds me of artists like Mike Snow or even Joe, who put out one of my top 10 favorite albums of last year, The Crux. These are modern artists with what I'd call analog sensibilities, right? So the music feels current, but the way it's crafted and recorded feels generational, filtered through a more accessible pop sound. It has this slightly dreamy, indie electronic atmosphere to it, but all packaged in a way that feels very easy to listen to. I mean, just look at this cover. I mean, if that doesn't say dreamy indie electronic for you, I don't know what does. And I think that's actually something that this album has going for it that works really well. It's not an album that's trying to dominate the room. It's more like the kind of album that you put on while the room is happening. A lot of the tracks on here almost feel more like intermissions in a way. There aren't too many standalone tracks. It feels like it's more maintaining a vibe. You can imagine just putting this album on at a gathering and having the music be present and not competing with conversation. This album is meant to be part of the atmosphere, part of the gathering. One thing I also really appreciate, and this might matter to some of you more than others, but for me it makes a difference. The lyrics are actually pretty clean on this album, right? And that does make a difference because I know that I can put this on in the background in mixed company and not have to worry about it. Kind of strange that it feels like we're in a day and age where that matters and it's harder and harder to find those types of albums. So Harry, thank you for that. Now, there is one area that I'd like to discuss that might leave some fans wanting more than others. And that is that, in my opinion, there isn't really a standalone track on this album. There isn't an As It Was on here or a Watermelon Sugar, it feels like. There are some songs that I like very, very much that I think are better than others, right? So like Ready, Steady, Go, The Waiting Game, and Pop, they kind of slap. But to me, there's no real Song of the Year moment here that's taking place. Nothing that actually stands out as the defining single. And because of that, I suspect that even though many fans will be very pleased with this album, I wouldn't really count on radio stations picking anything up here long term. I think they'll just go back to playing as it was. That song just has kind of a lightning in a bottle quality to it that's really, really hard to replicate. But that might also be the point here, because this album, Kiss All the Time, doesn't feel like it's trying even to outdo the past. And I get that and even respect that. When you think about an album like Harry's House and what it meant for the artist, there's really only two paths to follow after that. One, try to replicate or to outdo it and probably fail. Or two, take time to actually craft something that complements it instead of try to compete with it. And what we have here, I believe, is option number two, because it feels very much like a natural follow-up to Harry's House. That album had a very similar sense of reflection, as does Kiss All the Time. Almost like Harry was more interested in exploring a mood than in finding a way to constantly escalate the spectacle of his music. And Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally, it does continue that approach, right? It feels like an artist who knows the massive hits are already there, and now he's more interested in fashioning an experience than those hard-hitting single moments. Not every track here feels fully developed. Some really do, like I said, feel intentionally like intermission pieces. But taken as a whole, the album works surprisingly well as a cohesive, full listen. He wants you to start at the beginning and make it to the end. Interesting side note, if you stream the digital version of this song on Apple Music, it will actually loop itself in a way that's edited. So the final track will bleed into the first track. And so it just kind of keeps going. It's smooth, it's easygoing, and it's the type of album that you might find yourself putting on more often than you expected to. Maybe not because certain songs demand it, but because the overall atmosphere is just really pleasant. It feels good to spend time here. And so overall, I'd say that this album is an album that fans of Harry Styles will be very pleased with. But it's also an album that seems very comfortable living in the shadow of what came before. Those giant, bigger hits are behind. But honestly, that quiet confidence, I think, is exactly what it's going for, and it delivers on that. But that's it for me on Kiss All the Time, Disco Occasionally by Harry Styles. Collectors, have you listened to this album? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments, and as always, consider liking, subscribing. We've always got more physical media to come. Until next time, keep on collecting.